This video is brought to you by Cluster Fix. We specialize in instrument cluster repairs and other electronic component repairs. Today we're going to demonstrate how to take a instrument cluster out of a 2005 Chevy Trailblazer, which should be pretty similar to the GMC Envoy. So if you need some cluster repairs done, this will show you how to get it out of there in a relatively easy fashion. First thing you want to do is there's two bolts, 7mm bolts, in the knee bolster, which is this unit here. You don't have to take the whole thing off, but there's two screws, 7mm, that you need to remove in order to lower this down to gain access to the trim panel there. So we remove those two screws, and then this will pop down, exposing three screws that hold this trim panel on. So the next thing we can do is remove these three screws. Being careful not to drop them inside of there. There's two on the left side of this trim panel, and there's one on the right side. So I got those three out, and then there's one screw below the heater control that you'll want to get out as well. So now you have all the screws out of the trim panel, and it's pretty easy to pop up. You can get your finger behind it and just start popping it out. First of all, put your steering wheel in the full tilt down position. You got two screws up here as well. They're above the steering wheel. I'm going to remove those. Take a little bit more time than the full-size trucks, but it's not too hard. So we took a total of three screws out down here, two screws up here, they're Phillips head screws, and one screw underneath the heater control, the climate control there, and then the two 7mm screws out of the knee bolster. So now this is loose all the way, and you're able to kind of work it out. It's held in by some clips, but they pop right out. And the next thing, you got your headlight switch here, you've got a four-wheel drive switch, a fan control switch, and another switch here, and they unplug. So most of the time they're squeeze connectors. You squeeze the connector right here and pop that out. Squeeze behind here, pop that one out. Similar over here, you can't see it, but similar over here, you squeeze the tab and pull the connector out. The bottom one, you might need a little screwdriver to get behind it and unsnap it. Then you've got the power outlets here and cigarette lighter. You unplug these, two of those. You just squeeze that, and now you've got this totally loose. So this trim panel is going to come out with your switches. Just kind of tilt it back like this so the top end's tilted out, and you might have to squeeze things around a little bit. And once you get that out of there, you move that aside, and that exposes your instrument cluster, which is held in by four 7mm screws. So you can use a socket and extension, or you can use a nut driver like I'm using here. So you remove the four screws that hold this assembly in. Set them aside. Drop that one, we'll have to go back for that. If you drop any screws down here, you can usually take the lower panel off and retrieve them, or use a magnet if you can see them and pull them out of there. once you have those 4 screws out, there's a single connector on the top. I like to unplug it with the key off. And there's these tabs here. There's a blue tab, and that's kind of a locking tab. So you kind of tilt it back like that, squeeze the locking tab, and wiggle it out, and then just pull your cluster out like that. So if you want to get it sent in for repair, you've got it all ready to go. You can drive these without the cluster installed in them. You may have a check engine light that comes on when you put it back in, which usually clears out in a few trips because it recognizes there's no instrument cluster in there. But it's completely drivable without it. If you need to send it in for repair, we do the services here. You can log on to www.clusterfix.net to get some pricing information, shipping information, or call us at 509-366-9009. These particular clusters have a lot of problems with the gauges sticking, back lamps burning out, erratic gauges, inaccurate gauges. There's a few things that go wrong with them, but we repair all that. We also do climate control repairs. So if you had lights out in your climate control, these 2 center ones burn out a lot. There's some on the side here, and there's special bulbs that are soldered into the circuit board. Now you have the same process. There's 2 7mm screws. Once you get this trim panel off, there's little locking tabs here. You push down when you pull that out. You unplug the connector, and you can send that in for repair as well as the stereo. The lighting starts burning out in the stereo knobs, stereo buttons. You'll see a lot of different lights start burning out in those. You can greatly prolong the life of your lamps that have a lot of problems burning out in the GMs. You'll have, like I said earlier, the cluster lamps burn out, the heater control, the stereo lamps, the buttons, the window buttons, steering control, stuff like that. If you were to keep your interior lamp not to the max position where everything's real bright and keep it toned down a little bit dimmer, you're going to run a lot less current voltage through there, so you'll get more life out of them and won't have to replace these costly parts. But this is a demonstration how to get an 03 or 05 Trailblazer cluster out, similar to the Envoy. Got other videos as well on cluster removals from the full-size vehicles, and we'll be adding more as time goes on to show you how to do those. Thank you. Have a good day.